afternoon, Maine. Welcome to the Muddy Waters podcast, and I am, as always, your host, Chuck Ellis, your swamp guide, if you will. As you all know, the Muddy Waters podcast exists to help the people of Maine better understand what's going on here in our state, because the mainstream media, also known as the propaganda arm of the left. They do not report the news. They don't share what's actually going on, and so we have to use these alternative means. Fortunately, we do have the Maine Wire, who's doing a great job reporting on the things that are going on that the mainstream media doesn't want to talk about. But we're also, highlighting things by interviewing people about what's happening in our state. And fortunately, once again, for a second time, we have with us Maddy and Jimmy. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, really excited to have you on so we can talk again about the Common Sense Fair. But one of the things I always forget to do, I'm critiqued on this. I'm not a very good podcaster at this point. I have great conversations, but I forget to give people instructions. So we need people to go and make sure that you like, share, and subscribe them on all the different channels. This is how we help get the message out. A lot of the shorts you're going to find on Instagram, TikTok. Well, TikTok, I keep disappearing because I keep getting banned. So that's fun. TikTok likes to ban me for sharing the truth, I guess. But right now you can find me on TikTok at Muddy Waters 2024. That's my third attempt. They've banned me twice so far. But anyway, I'm on all the other platforms, YouTube, all the different places. So definitely go on, like, share, and subscribe. This is how we get the message out. This is why we've created this, so that we can share information and real stories from real people. So thank you all for that. But yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the Common Sense Fair. I'm really excited to go. I'm all lined up to get my booth. I still think I need to pay for my booth, but I because I don't think I have yet. So we'll get that taken care of. But I'm really excited. So yeah, tell me what you guys are excited about most about what's going to be going on at the Common Sense Fair.
Well, we've definitely been advertising more this year, not holding back. So we don't know what to anticipate. We have lawn signs and posters and postcards, and we've been doing podcasts, and people have been advertising. We've been putting it all over social media. So we have 6 food trucks, a coffee truck, gelato fiasco. We've got over 40 vendors and crafters. We've got activities for kids. We've got demos. We got sheep herding and a blacksmith. We have some great guest speakers lined up. We have a Constitution tent. We have a health and healing tent. So we've got a lot to offer people.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and one of the newest people that consigned a table is coming over. Alice Buchanan is coming over from Vermont with a healing table that's based on Nikola Tesla's design. It has like a 5-foot long, 8-inch diameter copper coil under it that's hooked to a control board, so you can adjust the frequencies on this thing. And our friend Meg Poor has one over in Georgetown, and I've used it several times for back pain, and it's pretty amazing.
So what is it? It's a healing table?
Yep.
Never heard of this. This is a...
Yep, based on Tesla technology. I mean, the word is going to get out on this stuff. You know, that's part of the stuff that was driven underground when they tried to ruin him years ago. But it's Tesla's technology, and I don't know the name of the manufacturer actually, but there's going to be one there for demonstrations, and she's going to be giving us the whole skinny on the thing.
Nice. Well, hey, I'm excited to learn. I'm always excited to learn more things. One of the things I think we all learned over the course of, I don't know, maybe the last 10 to 15 years, but more specifically in the last 5 years, is that the mainstream medical establishment is not interested in helping us get healthy and heal. They seem to be interested in having us be unhealthy, and for what reason, we could speculate, maybe profitability, maybe something worse than that. But either way, I think something like this, my initial thought is like, that sounds kind of weird. How does that work? But what I've learned over the years is that often, for a while, actually, I considered my chiropractor to be my primary doctor, because like the doctors didn't help me and my chiropractor did. And some people are like, that's kind of weird. And it's like, well, it works.
Yeah, remember when we were talking about ivermectin? Sounds kind of weird. You
Yeah.
know, how can an anti-parasitic take care of a virus? Well, it did, and I've used it. I know it did.
Yep.
You
Yeah,
know,
and there are stories that it's helping in some cases. Again, I'm not a doctor, don't trust me, but there are stories that it's effective in some ways at mitigating and reversing the effects of of cancers and things like that. I actually had somebody from another country reach out to me about that, and I was like, I don't know. My mom's a nurse; she'll tell you that it has some effect in that category. Again, how does an anti-parasitic do that? I don't know. But it wasn't what's one of its nicknames? Isn't it the wonder drug?
uh, maybe.
I think if you look it up on Wikipedia, I think that was one of the. I have to look it up now,
But
but
it's used in other countries for, what
They,
was
they,
it?
they
That
use it in India
parasite.
to treat river blindness,
Yeah, river blindness. That's what it was.
which is a parasite that gets into the eyes of the people that are, bathing in that scuzzy river over there.
I just wish it would take care of Lyme, but it doesn't. But to
yeah,
get on the line of the healing, we have the health and healing tent. So it's not just going to be people selling tinctures and that kind of stuff. We have healers that are going to be talking, doing like having talks and answering questions and that kind of stuff. So we've got a lot of workshop models going on as well.
nice. Who are some of the headline speakers that people will be excited to hear from?
Well, we definitely will have Meg Poor there because she has the healing center in Georgetown.
Yep.
And Dawn Ann Dean has an eco retreat. Where's she town? What town is Dawn Ann?
Over by Oxford somewhere. I'm not quite sure.
But she's running
Was
the
it
health and healing center.
Whispering Pines
No.
Healing Retreat. No, that's
No,
not.
Echo Retreat.
Oh yeah.
But we have some other people who have opened. Jen Goddard is coming.
Okay.
She's going to be there, and we have Meg Poor usually brings her massage chair as well, and she has an EE system in Georgetown, so she'll probably share a little bit about that information as well. And then we do Dawn Ann actually, really specifically has some CBD tinctures and that sort of stuff, and we have a lot of people that have their own tinctures and herbs, and so there'll be a lot of talk about that too, not just trying to sell product, but talking to people.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting, I'll say, is like sales is only bad if you're selling stuff that's not helpful for people, right? Like if you're trying to get people to buy things that, like if you're a snake oil salesman, for instance, right? That's not good because it's not going to help people. But if you're selling something that's actually helpful, healthy, and beneficial, then sales is just informing people of the opportunity and what might be able to help them. And so like I have no problem with somebody, selling something as long as they're not an aggressive salesperson, you know what I mean, and trying to convince me to do something that I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not interested. And they're like, but you really should be. That then you can feel free to talk about your stuff. I'm interested in hearing about it because, again, it's funny talking about oils, not snake oil, but the whole essential oil movement. There's a passage in the Bible that talks about, if somebody is sick, that they should go to the elders, be anointed with oil. And like if you actually do some study as to what they're talking about there, it's not like a spiritual thing. It's that there was a belief in the time that oils had healing power, right? And we, with our Western medicine, decided that was foolish for a long period of time, and now it seems to be coming back. And so anyway, those types of things, like hearing about the different alternative forms of alternative medicine that's actually more medicinal than traditional medicine, which seems to be, here's a pill, why don't you take it, or here's a vaccine, or here's a whatever it is. They're not really interested in actually healing people. They're more interested in like prescribing them medication and then things that are actually helpful.
Yeah, we just made some oil from St. John's wort.
Oh, okay.
It's a wildflower that grows around here, and I've used it on a rash, and it works beautifully. And we made some tincture from usnea. It's a moss that grows on trees, right? And it's the natural version of doxycycline. And it doesn't have the side effects like you have to stay out of the sun. It doesn't give you acid reflux if you lay down after you've taken it. It's good stuff.
Nice.
And yeah, we're into all of that sort of thing.
Nice.
And
so
I don't recommend anything that I haven't tried. You know,
there you go.
And used it.
Yep. Nope. That makes sense.
And I want to back up just a little bit about the ivermectin and the cancer. There's word on the street and a lot of research going on now that is kind of suggesting that many viruses are actually parasites, and that's why ivermectin worked on the COVID, because it was actually a parasite. And that I have a friend that was treated for cancer, and part of his protocol was ivermectin. And what percentage of the cure was based on ivermectin, I don't know. He was on several different treatments, but ivermectin was part of the protocol.
Nice. And he's basically, is he cancer free at this point? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he has been for like 7 or 8 years now.
Wow. Yeah. So this is back before, just for fun, for all the people out there that are trying to like talk about, I don't know, anyway, still don't know the truth or whatever. They're probably not listening to this podcast anyway, but the reality is ivermectin was used for cancer treatment before COVID-19. So this is not, I feel like sometimes people get really excited about something and like, you could use it for this, you could use it for that, but this actually is part of a protocol, historically, and so anyway, it's not just like we're so in love with this, it's, everybody should take it, this is medicine, this is scientific, we have the evidence. Yeah.
And one of our friends that's going to be speaking in the healing tent is actually treating cancer patients right now. She's a nurse that was fired for not taking the shots, and she's treating cancer patients with ivermectin and fenbendazole and good, clean food.
Yep.
And she's getting results.
Nice.
So we also
Awesome.
we're really talking about sovereignty. Our theme is sovereignty. So we have NEFSA, we have Jerry Lehman coming. He's going to be speaking on the main stage for the fishermen and everything going on. We have farmers. Jeff Weitzman's coming from California, talking about regenerative, farmland.
And Mark Fulford.
So we've got, we're trying to cover it all. We've got the farmers, the fishermen, education, healing. We're trying to cover it all so that people can get as much information as possible on the 20th of September.
That's awesome. I mean, the sheer number of people dealing with all these different areas of life that people I think should be thinking about, right? We as people need to be more informed and better informed of all the different options that exist on how to handle, all these different things. Food, what do we do about our food, our diets? Because food is like a huge problem, as we all know. RFK, I think, and Kelly and Casey Means, when they were on Joe Rogan in particular, really helped inform the world of a lot of like the problems. I mean, some people were paying attention before that, but I think they kind of broke it out into the mainstream of like, these things that we should be paying more attention to, and we're not as a culture, which is why we're the most obese culture, I think, in the world, or at least close to it. If we're not there, I think we are. I think it's somewhere around 75% of Americans. I think is that, like, which is just wild. And yet somehow I hear these Democrats keep talking about food insecurity, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like there's so much free food out there too. Like there's, food banks and all these other different things that, anyway, just a fun aside that here in America where we're 75% obese, they're talking about food insecurity. And it's like, okay.
Fortunately, our food that we sell and package, all that stuff is full of a lot of junk. Yeah. And we don't even have the regulations that require people to label stuff. In Europe, they don't. if they don't put on there that it causes hyperactivity and it's full of sugar and these dyes can cause cancer, they don't sell it. They don't, in the US we do, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, and like part of me, it's interesting because like there is a level of like I just don't want the government to tell me I can or can't do something, but at the same time, like this is where there are degrees of appropriateness, appropriate government regulations, and when it comes to things that are literally poisoning people, I guess at the very least you should have to put that on the label. If not, we should say, well, that's not good. You can't do that. There are places where I'm like, okay, I can see being okay with the government, to a degree regulating this. Part of me is just like, I think people should learn and be smart, and we should make our own decisions. We should be educated, and we should take responsibility for our own actions and not trust the government to do it for us. And we should be like, hey, this is bad. We shouldn't keep doing it. But when you're dealing with a nation of 350 million people, there is some responsibility that I think the government needs to take. To what degree, I don't know, but either banning some of those substances or at the very least forcing them to put it on the label so that people can easily see it. Either one of those things I think would do. I like the idea of making it on the label, because I think that in and of itself is going to push those companies, if they had to do that, to be like, all right, we're going to make this a different way. So they still have the choice. If somebody wants to make it with that, they can, but they're just going to have to label it. And that's going to push them to choose not to do it.
And if you want to eat it, you can. And that's what we're talking about. Food sovereignty.
Yeah.
It's about giving you the information, and you have the right to choose. And medical sovereignty, you have the right to choose. It's your business. And national sovereignty. No, the United States does not belong to the United Nations. We do not belong to the WHO. We do not belong to the Paris climate change agenda. We're America. We're Americans. This is what it means to be sovereign. We are in the world, but we are not the world.
Yeah.
We are a country unto ourselves with a constitution that supersedes any United Nations agenda. When we started this Telegram channel called Thought for Food, and it has, I don't know, 30, 40 articles on there that just has to do with food. And it all started with, a clip of John Kerry at the World Economic Forum, standing in front of the world telling us that if we had to take this climate crisis seriously, that we need to start eliminating American farmers. He said that with Bill Gates sitting behind him smirking. And he said we have to reduce meat production in this country by 85% and dairy by 90% by the year 2030. And this is in keeping with the United Nations sustainability goals and the United Nations sustainability goals and the WEF sustainability goals. I said, the WEF and the United Nations don't run this country.
Right.
You can have all the goals you want. It's not up to us. Right.
Yeah. Like I just keep thinking, I think I was in Kenya when I saw this clip, and I saw it start to resurface, and it's Bill Gates talking about how we need to, because of carbon emissions, right? We need to eat less beef. Actually, I think basically cows, I guess, make up, I don't know, it's somewhere around 6%. I think one of the things he was saying, somewhere around there, of the carbon dioxide that's put into the atmosphere, and so therefore we need to not have cows. Either we need to, as he puts it, vaccinate cows so that they no longer, I guess the methane comes out when they fart or something like that. I don't know. Like, right. So we need to vaccinate cows so that they no longer fart. I just feel like that's not a good idea. Or we need to stop eating cow. But still, like that also would seem to suggest, because the cows are still going to eat whether we eat them or not. So what are you going to do? Mass murder the cows? Like what are we talking about? Not that it's murder to kill a cow, but you know what I mean. But eliminate a species from the earth because they create too much methane, or not methane, but carbon dioxide, or maybe
Yeah.
it comes from methane. I'm not a scientist. Like that seems like. I don't think you'd get the Indians on board, by the way. I think they have this thing about cows where they consider them to be spiritual. Maybe his plan there is to convince them to let him vaccinate them so that they don't fart anymore. I don't know, but it's just like, is it how? And his other thing is like either we vaccinate them or we eat like alternative meat, which is like this like ultra processed, like incredible Whopper kind of stuff, right? Like, which is terribly unhealthy. But my understanding is it's actually more unhealthy than meat.
It makes sense to me. I mean, the more artificial anything gets, the worse it gets from its natural counterpart.
Yeah, but it's how is it that these guys, people take them seriously?
And go back and look at look at the geological studies that were done in the 1980s from the Arctic and the Antarctic ice core samples that they took. 10,000 years ago, there was 1,000 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the air. Now we're at 400. When it was 1,000, there was plenty of life on the earth. There was plenty of human beings on the earth. There was plenty of vegetation, plenty of animals alive when it was 1,000 parts per million. So why is 400 dangerous?
Right. Well, it's obviously not. It's climate alarmism. It's not climate change. They're literally just trying to spin a narrative that's about them gaining power and control over people. That's what they want. If people are not seeing that, then they're not paying attention, right? Because like that is legitimately what's happening. There was a report that was just recently put out. Michael Schellenberger. I saw it earlier today where he posted, actually he posted it yesterday, but I saw it today. It says that climate change this is what people are saying, climate change will make seas rise by 3 to 10 feet by the end of this century, said scientists and the media. Nonsense. A new first ever study of real world data, not models, finds no evidence climate change accelerated sea level rise. So just another example of like, and so follow Michael Schellenberger on X if you're not already. That guy is doing God's work and informing the people. He's actually a real journalist. I don't know if you heard of those, but they do exist. We do have one here in Maine. I like to always give Steve Robinson credit and some of the other people that work for his team. Michael Schellenberger is doing some incredible stuff. And it's a fraud so that they can gain power and control over people instead of allow people to have sovereignty.
Right on.
Yeah.
And common sense. Let's use some common sense.
Let's please use some common sense. Well, you don't have a degree in common sense. So maybe if you had a master's or a doctorate from Harvard in common sense, maybe we could listen to you, as long as you agree with the mainstream media and their narrative. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanna go back to the Common Sense Fair real quick about sovereignty, because we have launched a youth writing contest, which is part of the fair. It's been on our website, mainstandsup.org/CSF. But we recently had a monetary donation. We have a sponsor, Shepherds of Maine, and they donated some money to go towards the winning essays. So that's another encouragement for some of our youth to write about sovereignty. And if you go to the website and click on the youth writing contest, there's 2 categories. There's ages 10 to 12, and then there's 13 to 19. So there's 2 categories. All the directions are there. So hopefully we get some youth that want to submit some essays.
All right. And the website again is
www.mainstandsup.org/CSF.
For Common Sense Fair.
Yep.
And aren't they going to read their essays, the winning essays?
They have that opportunity, yes.
To read the winning essays from the main stage.
and some free tickets for winning first place. There's free tickets for a family of 4, and top prize for the winning essays is $200.
Okay. Nice. Wow, that's really cool. That's incredible. It's great to get the kids involved and give them. I think so. What are the other things that you guys have going on? You mentioned that there's going to be a lot of stuff to do for kids, but what are some things? So I think obviously a lot of. I'm thinking of my brother in particular. He's got kids, and like if he's gonna, they like going to fairs in general, but it's like what's there to do for the kids? It might be helpful for people.
Well, we do have a couple demonstrations. We have a blacksmith coming, so he'll be demonstrating some of that in the forge. And we have 3 scheduled sheep herding demonstrations from Two Coves Farm. And the children's activities, we're going to have a lot of things going on. There's going to be possibly some face painting, a parachute, other games, cornhole. Maybe
yeah, we're looking at old-fashioned type games like a 3-legged race and a potato sack race and a tug of war with a piece of rope, or kids actually, might get scraped up a little bit.
And we are strategically putting the hot dog stand and the gelato fiasco truck over in the children's area, that kind of stuff. So there's going to be, things are going to be divided up and spread out so people can mill around. And like I said, we have like 6 food trucks, and demonstrations and workshops, and
the kids are going to have a chance to help make apple cider. We're going to have a cider press there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So kids can understand that their cider doesn't just come out of a plastic jug somewhere.
Wait, it doesn't?
There's actually a train of events that lead up to it.
Yeah.
And
nice.
The cider press is super cool. It's a homemade rig, and the apple grinder is made out of an old 6-inch brush chipper. It's got a gasoline motor on it. You dump a bushel of apples and it just whoosh. It comes out the other side all chopped with the squeezer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, it sounds
shows some New England ingenuity there. But you don't have to go to the store and buy a cider press. You can actually make one.
Yeah, I mean, we're such a cookie cutter world at this point with our, people. Basically, we know everything that we get, we buy, and I think that there is a little bit more of making and building and growing our own stuff, which I think is something we need to shift back to. I think something when you're in the city, it's a little bit more challenging with some of those things, but I think it's a shift we need to do in our society because the stuff that we're getting in the store, I mean, one, we tend to spend more money than we need to. And I think there's this idea that we have to buy everything, whereas I think there are things that can be made. And, my people in my family, I think my brother, they've done a great job of not hiring people to come and do work at their house, but figuring it out themselves, and building whatever they need to build shelves. They don't need to buy pre-built shelves. That's too expensive. They can't afford it. So what do? They're creative. And I think we need more of that in our society. I think I could use to grow that way.
Well, Jimmy's also, he and his buddy, they have a sawmill together. So it's old timers sawmill.
Old timers sawmill.
And Topsom, and they, saw lumber and, so anybody looking for lumber.
And that's one of the conversations we're having now in Harpswell. One of the hot button topics on the comprehensive plan is, affordable housing. People have been howling about affordable housing for 30 years. And guess what? We still don't have any.
It seems to have gotten less affordable.
Yeah, things are getting less affordable. And I think people need to understand that affordable housing is not a political issue. It's a socioeconomic issue. And the people that are in need have to be the ones to grab the bull by the horn and get the job done. There's one of my friends has a little bandsaw mill in town, and his nephew is an arborist, and he brought him over the last year enough lumber to frame up and build 2 houses that he was paid to take down, right? So even if he pays my friend with the sawmill to saw it, people are still getting their lumber for half the price they can get it at the lumber shed. You know,
Wow.
we need to get back to this. Grab ourselves by the bootstrap and pull ourselves up, and not be looking for a political system to do it for us. The best thing that the political system can do is keep the politicians off our back. You know, stop regulating us to death so that we can do these sorts of things.
Yeah, I agree. And getting at sovereignty is it's definitely in the exact opposite of I think what the Democrats are pushing. And you know, I don't know that like Maine Stands Up is not necessarily a Democrat versus Republican organization, but the reality is like the Democrat Party is pushing an agenda. You know, when they talk about things like affordable housing, like in things being affordable, it's like, well, the government's going to make it that way. Well, what are they proposing? What is affordable housing by the government? It's you get to live you get to rent from them at a lower rate with no hope of ever owning a home.
Right.
Right. You get stuck because you can't start to make too much money because then you'll lose your benefits. And so you get trapped in under government control. That's their answer to affordable housing. Right. That's not an answer.
That's
right?
not an answer, and it's not sovereignty.
No. No.
You know, I built my own house with my own hands and my own sawmill, and dragged the trees out of the woods with my own horses, you know, and built a house without a mortgage for 30 years, you know. And then I you know, when I got divorced, I had to buy out, you know, her half of the house, and now I have a mortgage. But how many people have any idea what it feels like, you know, to own your own home, you know?
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't, especially younger people. I think what's the average age that people are buying their first home is it was either the high 30s or the low 40s, like 38, maybe 38 to 42 in that range, which is just, you know, it's a long time. You know, if you think about it, if you're buying a house, getting a 30-year mortgage at, you know, 40, you're not going to pay it off till you're 70.
Yeah. And you still, that's when you own it.
Right.
The
and then you can, well, you're
you
still rent. That's when you start renting it from the government only.
Right. renting it from the banks, you know, this.
Yeah.
But to actually own it, if you own your own house free and clear, you have a lot more choices of what you're going to do with your life, because you don't have to sweat out making a mortgage payment every month. You can stand up in the morning and say, all right, this is what I'm going to do today, or that's what I'm going to do today, because you have more choices.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a huge aspect of sovereignty is, you know, I think having, as you guys are talking about, having more choices. Cause I think, you know, I think most people just buy into this like broken American ideology of like, well, I could never do that. Right. Because you know, how can I build a house on my own? Number one, there is a very real challenge, right? That, you know, they've made it almost impossible to get a construction loan. And they've also made it almost, in particular, not nearly impossible, if not actually impossible, to get a construction loan if you are the one GCing it yourself. If you're going to be doing so, like, it's interesting because I worked in banking for almost 15 years, and I started in 2009, and I definitely didn't know the moment in history that I was in, you know, and the significance of all of it. I'd just been in a cocoon or whatever at the University of Maine at Farmington, and graduated in 07, and had been doing some like nonprofit work for a couple of years, but I was still on the campus a lot, and I was like living in this bubble. And then I started working in the bank, and like I started to learn like everything that's really going on around the world. Somehow I got educated, but I was uneducated when I got done. But the reality is, like, as I learned more about the industry, it's like, you know, it's very, very, very challenging to be able to get a construction mortgage, to the point where, like, I was telling people, if they were coming to me and they were like, well, you know, we'd talk about buying a house or whatever, and they're like, oh, we want to build one. And I would be like, and because I knew people in construction, like, if you're paying somebody else to do it, like, you're going to be spending more money than it would cost to buy an existing structure, right? And so I was like, this is what I recommend. And they would come back a while later and be like, yeah, we decided to buy. It's like, yeah, and I figured that would be the case, because it's, unless you're like independently wealthy, or you have the ability to do the work yourself slowly over time, and spend some money here and there, and kind of like, after you've acquired the land, unless you're in that category, like, getting a construction loan is just so much more difficult than buying. The other factor, and again, this gets at an interesting thing, which this is supposed to be about you, and I'm talking too much, but one of the other things is, with a construction loan, you have to put 20% down and pay fees, right? Whereas you can buy a house, there are programs where you can buy a house with no money down and a better interest rate.
Yeah. And so, I've come to this point of, and this doesn't have a lot to do with the fair, but it has a lot to do with sovereignty.
Yeah.
Right. And where you're going to get the startup money, where are you going to get your leg up? You know where you're going to get your leg up? You're going to build a tiny house and sell it. You're going to have a short investment and a long payback on it, right? It's coming back to you more than double what you've invested in it. You do that a couple of times and you've got a foothold. From there, you can work. Now, I built almost 30 years ago, I built a masonry heater in my house. At that time, they were about $13,000 to have one built. So a friend of mine who had built several of them, quite versed at it, I traded him 3 cords of firewood to come and help me build the core on the thing, right? So he got a winter's worth of firewood. I got a core for my heater. Then another friend of mine who is a carpenter and a mason, I went to work for him for a week, and he kept all of my wages. He billed me out to the client and kept all of my wages for a week. And then he came and helped me put the face on it. He worked for me for a week. Right. So by the time it was all over, I had $1,300 invested in a $13,000 fireplace. The rest of it was sweat equity that I had traded back into. That's what sovereignty looks like.
Yeah. I mean, it also sounds a lot like community.
It is. Sovereignty is community. Yeah. Right? A group of sovereign individuals is a community, a strong community. It's not a fragile community. It's not a vulnerable community. It's a strong community.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, that's. I mean, those are things like. Again, I'm struggling with my own personal behaviors, because I'm just like, oh, I'll go buy what I need, and I don't want to involve other people. I don't want to affect other people. I don't want other people to be burdened by me. And I think this is something that we've developed in our society that's not necessarily good. Like doing like that idea of like trading. I'll go work for you to get some help with this thing that I need to get done. It'd be nice to get back to that. I think a lot of people are probably like, how in the world could we make that work though? Because of all the demands of jobs these days, and like everybody, partly, this isn't small business sovereignty is another place where like being a small business owner is a path to sovereignty as well. Because part of the challenge that we have in our world today, and part of the reason like people feel like they can't do what you're talking about, is like, well, how would I get the time off to be able to do that because of the way my job works? Is that like working it's not true, but there is a degree of truth to the people who say if you work for these major corporations, you're kind of slaves to them, right? But there is a degree of truth to that. Like you feel like you're owned by them, and they give you limits on like your ability to take care of things, take time off, whatever, because of the needs of their business. And I understand why they do it, but at the same time, you're much more dependent on them. And the financial system is also like against really against people being small business owners. There's so much in it. I could probably spend 45 minutes talking about that. But it's interesting. And so, but we need as a society to get back to, more of that. Because things have just gotten way too expensive because our behaviors we're making wise decisions as a culture,
and
unwise decisions.
And that's what I can tell you for sure, that, the whole time that I was working, and I had a firewood business, I had a sawmill, that I was running. So I wasn't doing this full time, working and building a house. And it took, 20 years to get anywhere as near a finished product. But the whole time my wife was working. But our threshold for survival was really low because of the skill set that I had, because we didn't make, $500-600 a month car payments, because I was able to run a secondhand car and truck and do the mechanic work myself, because they were old enough so that I didn't require an engineering degree to change the oil. And grow our own food, and had our flock of chickens, and raised it, and learned how to butcher my own pigs and chickens. So I wasn't going to the grocery store and buying it. So the amount of money that we needed to live a fairly good life was very low, and it gave us the opportunity to. I did all of my own plumbing. My father showed me how to sweat solder copper pipe, and plumbing out a house is not rocket science, and doing basic electrical work, and unless you're doing a whole bunch of three-way switches and blah, 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 and getting really complicated, and security systems and all that nonsense. It's pretty straightforward. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's just, we have to be willing to do difficult things. And I think they've trained us to not want to do that and want to hire somebody to do all those things, right? Which gets that education. But we don't need to spend too much time on education. But what are some other aspects of sovereignty that maybe we haven't already talked about that are going to be highlighted at the Common Sense Fair?
Well, we have Alan Sarvinas coming for Parents' Rights in Education, and he's going to speak on the main stage, and he's also going to have a table. We have representation from Homeschoolers of Maine. I'm a public school teacher. This is my 38th year of teaching, so I know what it's like to be in the public school, and things that work and don't work. And I also have a lot of friends that homeschool their children. So there's a lot of things going on, as long as parents are kept in the loop and kids are being educated, and it's about reading, writing, and arithmetic and that kind of stuff. And we don't sway way out of what, kids should be doing, and giving them experiences, so we do have a lot of education representation that's going to be there. Heidi Sampson's going to be there on the main initiative. So people are going to also be speaking, not just on the main stage, but have tables. So if parents are interested in any of those aspects, they can find out.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
We have some farmers coming too, and we've got, some people that are making, that have goat farms. So they're coming with their goats, soaps and different things like that. So farmers will be represented, education, fishermen, so we have a lot going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fishing industry is huge. I think you said that NEFSA, what's his name?
Jerry Lehman.
Jerry Lehman of NEFSA, the New England Fishermen Stewardship Association, who's pushing back against ridiculous regulations by NOAA, which is an organization that doesn't know a thing about what's really going on in the fishing industry. I'm sure somebody else has done that before, but I just couldn't help myself. They really don't know what's going on, and they're trying to regulate an industry they don't understand. And it's interesting. Jerry, I've had him on the podcast, and he's just he's a brilliant guy. But he knows so much that it's hard to digest what he's telling you, because it's hard for him to break it down because it is so complex, and there's so much, and he's so deep in the weeds on it that the challenge was I talked to him for 3.5 hours before we had him on the podcast so that I could translate for people as we were going through it. But this guy, he often talks about the fact that because people seem to care about this, that he doesn't have a college. I don't know if he doesn't have a college degree or if he just doesn't have a doctorate or whatever it is. I don't think he has a college degree. And, but he has a doctorate in on the ground, on the boat. He's lived his entire life. He's a 3rd generation fisherman. He knows this stuff. There's this weird brokenness in our society, since we're talking a little bit about education, that people seem to think that you need, like we have what is it? It's the logical fallacy of appeal to authority, right? And so if somebody has a degree, then they have a higher authority, then therefore they're right, rather than like evaluating the information. And Jerry may not have the degree, but he knows the information, he knows the facts, he can point them out. And so we listen to Jerry not because he was a 30-year fisherman, right? But because he knows what he's talking about. And if you listen to him, he communicates that, and he knows this in and out better than the people who are trying to regulate his industry.
And another shout out for Noah, as a friend of mine got out of bed one day and she said, "You know what? I'm going to go to Noah's website and get a permit for weather modification." And it turns out, guess what? You don't need one. All you are required to do is report what you're doing in our atmosphere within 10 days of doing it.
Like 10 days before or 10 days after?
I can't remember if it was 10 days.
Either way.
Within 10 days, something. And when you get to the bottom of one page, guess what? You can get a religious exemption from reporting geoengineering, weather modification. You can get a religious exemption for spraying poisons in our sky, but you can't get a religious exemption from having poison pumped into your body.
Yeah.
Isn't that a good one?
It's pretty insane. So speaking of that, though, like let's talk, because one of the other areas of sovereignty is medical sovereignty. And we've got some people with the healing stuff, but we've got some other people coming as well, right?
Yeah, we have people that have opened their own clinics and things like that, holistic healing, stuff like that. Yeah.
I thought you'd said that somebody, one of the big speakers that was pushing back against vaccine mandates back in 2020 or whatever was going to be there. Maybe it was one of the speakers. Is that right?
Well, Dr. Christiane Northrup is going to be one of our co-MCs.
Okay, MC. Yep.
Yep. And she always speaks, and she'll do a wrap up at the end of the day as well. But she was one of the founders of Maine Stands Up.
Yep. Nice. That's the name I always heard a lot about. That, and is Meryl Nass, was she part of Maine Stands Up as well?
Not necessarily part of Maine Stands Up, but she spoke at our fair last year. And to listen to her of course she has her medical degrees and all of those things, but she does not stop. She speaks the truth and she researches, and we tried to get her again this year, but because she travels so much now and speaking, that she couldn't commit. But we had her last year, and it was an amazing time to have her on stage and speak for an hour.
Yeah, her organization is called Door to Freedom, and very, very informative site. The woman is a genius. Yeah,
and she does a lot of like podcasting essentially every day, or something. I don't know if it's every day, but updating people on what exactly is going on with RFK and the things that he's doing, amongst other things. I've recently discovered that because I reached out to her to try to have her come on the podcast, and she's open to coming on, but she was like, well, you need to do a little bit of research to tell me like what you want me to talk about and kind of have a plan. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. But yeah, she's definitely like up on everything, and just as always learning and studying and teaching other people, if you want to listen. But she's really great. But yeah, no, anyway, I just thought that she was connected at some level, but yeah, Christiane Northrup will be there. Is there anybody else, like any like notable names, like big names that are going to be there?
No, we have sent out invitations. We sent an invitation to Steve Robinson.
Okay.
Just to come, not to be a guest. We actually did invite him to be a guest speaker, but he didn't accept. But we have, and
Dr. Douglas Frank is going to be speaking on the stage, and he's about, voter integrity. Yeah. So he's going to be speaking, and then he's actually going to have an area where he can do a Q&A after he speaks on the stage. So really, we have people that are just going to do some breakout sessions after they speak on the stage.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. So if you want to learn more about that stuff, that voter integrity is obviously huge, and one of the things that's on the ballot in November. If you didn't know that already,
Oh
voter
yeah.
ID. You got to get out and vote
Oh
yes on one and no on two. So under sovereignty, do you talk about like gun ownership as well? Is that one of the other? That's not one of the things that is part of the conference, but I think it would fall in line.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to be able to bear arms, I mean, that's our right under the Constitution. So,
we forgot to mention Jake Kleisik
yep.
is going to be speaking from the main stage on educational sovereignty. Do you remember the name of his book?
Well, yeah, it's a world order.
Yeah, the School World Order
Mhm.
is the name of his book, and how the education system that we're working under now is part of the Communist Manifesto.
Yeah,
He,
yeah.
he's going to be exposing that and taking questions. He's going to do a breakout session after he speaks on the stage. So, if people have more questions for him afterwards, they can go to his area and get down with that.
And Mark Fulford is going to be speaking on the main stage, and he is an owner and a consultant, for farmers and their farmland, and with PFAS and all this stuff going on. I mean, he travels quite a bit. He will not necessarily have a table, but after he speaks on the stage, I'm sure he'll answer people's questions if they have any questions about their farmland or what they need to do to rejuvenate, as well as Jeff Weitzman, who's coming from California.
And Ray Wrightsey is going to be one of our guest speakers. He has been for 3 years now, and Ray really goes deep to make the connection between the soil and the spirit of the earth and the spirit of humanity, and how they're all connected, and how when you break one link, you break them all. That everything is affected. If you pollute the earth, you pollute the soul of humanity. And he always puts on a good talk, and he's, people flock on him hard when he's done speaking to get more out of him.
Well, we also start with an opening prayer, which Gary Hazard will be doing, but we also have a drumming ceremony that Amelia and Rose Lacasse do as well when we open the fair.
Nice.
Micmac drum.
Oh, nice. And the fair starts, we haven't said this yet, so people who don't know, we did give out the address, but it's September 20th from 10 a.m. to, is it 6 p.m.?
Yep, 6 p.m. So the gates open at 10, and Jimmy and his band will be playing music in the beginning. Yeah.
What's the name of the band?
Certainty Beyond Logic.
I like it.
So then around 10:45, we'll do the drumming ceremony and then the opening prayer, and Christiane will do a welcome. So after that, we'll have like 2 or 3 guest speakers. Then we'll do some announcements, some, time for people to go watch a demonstration or go get something to eat or that kind of stuff. So there'll be music in between. So there'll be about 3 or 4 guest speakers speaking at a time. And we have 11. We have 11 guest speakers. So throughout the day, from about 11 until 6.
Nice. Is Heidi Sampson going to be part of that event? I can't remember.
Heidi Sampson is speaking. Yep.
She's speaking from the main stage.
Yep. So we have, Jerry Lehman is such a busy man. He needs to be in Gloucester, after he speaks. So he's kicking things off at 11:15 a.m. And then we have Major Mike Gary, who is talking about Truth for Health. Because he's, affected by these, COVID vaccine mandates, and he was in the military, and he is still fighting that battle. We have Dr. Doug Frank. We've grouped Heidi Sampson, Alan Sarbinas, and Jake Kleisik together. And then we're going to end the day with Jeff Weitzman and Mark Fulford.
Nice. Wow. Quite a line. I had to make sure we mentioned Heidi. She a lot of people. She's got a huge fan club in the state, and so it's important for them to know that Heidi is going to be there. And yeah, so I think it's a really great lineup, and I love the topic. I'm really excited to be there. I was there briefly last year. I had a lot going on that day, but I was able to come and hang out for a little bit. But I'm excited to be able to be there for the whole day. And we're going to be, we're going to have a table. Muddy Waters is, and we'll be selling some merchandise, and hopefully going to have the plan is to have some bumper stickers for yes on one, no on two, so we can help encourage people to vote the right way ultimately, because we need to win those, both of those issues, so that the Democrats don't gain more control, or we have a chance. I don't know how much illegal voting happens here in the state of Maine. Dr. Douglas Frank has some good ideas about that, but I do know that there is some, as we talked about. I think probably before I went on the podcast, is like a couple, last week or something. We had a guy on the podcast who, maybe it's 2 weeks ago now. Geez, time flies. Who shared about his students who were at Portland Adult Ed, who were not citizens, who were voting, who had received mail-in ballots and were registered to vote and thought that they were allowed to, and people had told them that they were allowed to, and he asked them who, and they wouldn't tell him. And then he had them Google it, right? So like, they were like, okay, I guess they can't vote. But like, the reality is, we know that this is happening. And even since then, I don't think it's in direct response to this clip, but since then, Shanna Bellows has even admitted that there is some illegal voting. There are some non citizens that are registered to vote. Probably, she says, right? So this is how the Democrats do things, right? They say it's not happening. Then when you prove it's happening, they're like, well, it is happening, but it's not really happening that much. And then when it turns out that it is happening a lot, they're going to shift the narrative to say, well, why shouldn't they vote? They live here. They have to deal with the laws that are here. I mean, that's how they're shifting patterns around this. And the truth is, they do want those people to be able to vote anyway, partly because they believe that they'll vote in favor of them because of all the freebies that they give out, right? But anyway, which
is a logical expectation, right?
Yeah. I mean, people can be bought is the short version, and we should not be people that can be bought. We should be people that are sovereign, right? So bring it back to that. Yeah.
Sovereign individuals.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm glad you said. I think you said that there are going to be 40 different tables of vendors there. So there's a lot of people that are going to be there. I like food, so I'm excited about that, and especially coffee. I was there last year, and I know that it's a different coffee company this year, but just like, I like to get some I'm hoping that they do some good lattes. Last year I think they had a maple syrup latte or something like that, and I'm like,
it was Vagabond Coffee. He was amazing. We have Lucky Cat coffee this year, so looking forward to it.
And I did insult him, though. I told him that real Maine is get the coffee at the gas station.
Oh boy. Is that why he didn't come back this year?
No.
No, he knew I was joking.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine if you call your company Vagabond Coffee, you probably have thick skin. And just a guess.
The other part of our, advertising thing, you mentioned Heidi. All of the people that are speaking and vending at the fair are putting it out on their social media where they will be, and inviting people in, so come on down,
so we are going to be at the Litchfield Fairgrounds. So 44 Plains Road, Litchfield. So actually the Litchfield Fair is this coming weekend, so we want to plug for the Litchfield Fair as well, but in 2 weeks we will be at the Litchfield Fairgrounds.
Yes, good to know. Somebody else was commenting that they were confused because there's another fair happening at the Litchfield Fairgrounds. And it's the Litchfield Fair. That is not the Common Sense Fair. Go check it out, but go to the Common Sense Fair on September 20th. Definitely be there. I believe also, trying to figure out who has the booth, but I know that my friend Ryan is going to be there, and that he's going to be hanging out with Robert Wessels, who's going to be there, and I think Owen McCarthy had mentioned that he's going to come for a little while and hang out at one of the booths. So there are going to be a couple of gubernatorial candidates there. Maybe
we invited David Jones.
Yeah.
To come.
Nice.
Whether he shows or not, I don't know, but we invited him.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he does. But yeah, anyway, it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to be around a group of people with common sense. So if you're able to make it, I would highly encourage everybody to come. I like to meet people who, from X as well. So like, it'd be fun to have people stop by the booth and say, hey, I listened to you, or, hey, I recognize you, but I don't listen to you. That's fine too. I don't mind, but like at some of these like different rallies and things like that, it's been fun to meet people who value, I think, the work that I'm doing with this podcast, which is not for me, it's for the movement. We need to get the insane people into the asylum and out of the legislature and the governor's seat. Yeah, that's what we need to do. So
right on. I cannot believe that, but somebody sent me a clip. I think it was on Facebook the other day about, Maddy Doctore said to the Republicans, shut up, sit down, and get to work. Really? That's how you talk to your partners in the legislature? Shut up, sit down, and get to work? Really?
Yeah. What's fascinating... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was going to say was we have invited Tucker Carlson. We have invited Steve Robinson. So if they come, they come.
Yeah, that would be fun. I think I've heard that Tucker really tries to avoid going to things in Maine because, like, outside of like where he lives, he'll just go to the store. And if you live up in that area, you might easily see him and be able to go up and talk to him. But it would be really cool if he were able to make it. But and it's cool that you guys invited him. So I hope he comes. He's somebody who would be a lot of fun to just have a off the cuff conversation with, and I'd love to hear his silly laugh in person.
There is so much going on in Maine. I know when he first came to Maine, he promised his family he would not get involved with anything in Maine. But if he doesn't, he's going to be sucking hind tit because there's a lot going on here, and you're going to have to get mixed up with it sooner or later, or you're just a spectator. And he's a spectator.
Yeah, and he, like, I don't care if Tucker, if you ever see this for whatever reason, I doubt you will. But I don't care if you get personally involved, but maybe throw us a bone here. Like maybe come to an event, help us raise some money. I think that would be really cool. Or just donate some money. I mean, because you're living in the state of Maine, you're paying. I'm assuming you make a lot of money with what you do. You're probably paying a lot of money to the state of Maine in taxes. You might as well give some to us who are trying to reduce your tax burden. So that's my pitch to Tucker. Yeah, but not that he'll ever see this, but yeah, it would be, hopefully he's there. But going back to Maddy Doctore real quick, because it's funny that she kind of did that, sit down and shut up, especially given the fact that she somehow got a $500,000 grant from the state, and the state won't reveal who approved it.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah. Now who's going to sit down and shut up? Right.
Seriously, like we gotta explain this, right? Like how are you as getting a $500,000 grant? Like, why are we giving out? So it's for a brewery. Like, why is the state giving that kind of grant in the first place? We have, no offense if somebody wants to start a brewery and it's going to be really amazing. I love it. I like breweries. However, we have enough. A lot of them have gone out of business because we had too many. Like we had the most breweries per capita of any area of the country in the Portland area back around 2017, 2016, 2018, somewhere in that range when I first moved to the Portland area. And we've had a lot of them go out of business because there's not a market that's big enough for all of them. And I love these things and I would go around to them, but I eventually got to the point where I was like, yep, every brewery has an IPA, a double IPA, maybe a Pilsner, and a stout. And they're somewhat unique, but they're not so unique that there's enough demand for all of them, and I think so, like, in that, we're giving a $500,000 grant in the first place to any brewery, let alone to the Senate president or whatever her title is. That's sketchy. Some heads need to roll on this one. Some people need to be fired. She needs to be impeached,
Just
Hey,
saying.
Did you hear about the new crosswalk in Brunswick?
No.
Red, white, and blue. Right.
How did that?
Greens. Red, white, and blue crosswalk.
How did that happen?
I don't know. Big mystery. Maddy saw it on Facebook, and I drove downtown. There it was.
Wow.
I mean, it's
Is that
inclusion, right?
What? Yeah, no, it's great. Do you think it's somebody who did something on their own, unofficially?
No, I think they'd have probably painted over it if it was.
Oh, hey, that's great. I'm surprised you're seeing that in Brunswick. I think they seem to be like, I mean, a lot of what you see.
The next one up is the Pride one.
Okay. I think that's a step in the right direction. It's an improvement. We got to get rid of the Pride one, obviously, but a lot of times, like, people who have the Pride flag say that the American flag is bad.
Right. It's
right.
racist.
Like, right. It's racist, sexist, transphobic, whatever. All the stuff that they throw out of anybody that they're trying to marginalize. And so, like, at least they put the colors of, the flag, our colors up. That's great.
And they, I was listening to Steve Robinson interview Alvin Louis. Courage is a habit.
Yeah.
And he said, you just got to stand up. If they want to call you a homophobe, so what? What do you care? Right? If they want to call you a transphobe, so what? If they want to call you a racist, so what? You just have to stand up and take your hit.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they're defining it, if that's what they're going to call those things, okay, fine, I'll wear it. I don't care. You're making the word meaningless by saying all these ridiculous things. You're saying that caring about people and believing that they're doing things that are harmful to themselves and communicating that to them is hate. If that's how you define things, okay, I'll own that. I will own that. I'm fine with that. And we absolutely do have to do that. I'm actually having Alvin on. He wanted one of my hats, not this one. It's a different one that I have. And so he sent me one of his hats, and I sent him one of my hats. And so at the end of the month, we're gonna do a podcast together, wearing each other's merch. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So Tune in for that.
So, good score.
Cool. Yeah.
For both of you.
Yeah. No, it's fun. His is the embrace exclusion, is what it says, right? So, like, he going off on what you're saying there. He's like, there are so many aspects of our life where we exclude people, right? From our bedroom, from our house, from being able to do certain things with our kids, right? Most of what we do actually is exclusive. And so the idea that, like, we need to be inclusive, is, again, Maddy, I think, could talk more about this as we were talking earlier, but, like, inclusion is basically a tactic to manipulate people into saying things that they don't believe and not saying things that they do believe, in order to try to convince them that, to shift their ideology or silence them. Right? That's the problem. I'm all about including people in general, right? If there's a group of people, let's bring a group of people together. Great. I don't care what background you're from. Let's have a conversation, right? But if you're telling me that I have to use your language in order to have that conversation, if that language is in opposition to what I believe is the truth, can't do it.
Yeah, and we'll bounce back to MSU for a minute, because you kind of touched on it a little bit, that 2 different times over a 3-year period at MSU meetings, I asked people, how many people in this room used to be Democrats, and a full 50% put up their hand. We're not partisan. We're common sense.
Yep.
Right. We're common sense. And as Bill Maher is famous for saying, and Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard, that the left has moved way too far.
Yeah.
To the left. They're not in the left anymore. They're not even in the picture. They've gone so far.
Well, and they don't seem to be backing down, which is either frightening or interesting. Like either they're going to be totally destroyed in the upcoming elections, right? Or I don't know, like, I mean, I can't imagine they're going to win with this message. I mean, this is why they lost nationally, or we're going to have some sort of a cold civil war or an actual civil war at some point, depending on how things shake out, which is kind of frightening to think about. But it's also a real possibility. We were talking about it last night. Unquirer and Trusinger and myself, we did a stream, and that's what they were more leading that portion of the conversation. But like they're doubling down on this stuff. I mean, Bernie Sanders, who's a full-on socialist, came here to the state of Maine to endorse Graham Plattner, who is a socialist, and Troy Jackson, who is a socialist. Like endorsing people like that are as far left as they come, full on like communist. They're Marxists. That's what this is. This is, and it's just wild that 10 years ago, people would say that this is the direction that the Democrat Party is heading, and people would be like, no, you're crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist, right?
Right.
Before it was popular to be a conspiracy theorist. But that's what they would say, right? And now they're saying it openly and boldly, proclaiming this stuff, and they have a rally. And anyway, it's I don't know. It's just it's wild that they're doubling down on this type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, you talk about you can't be a Democrat at this point and believe the Democrat Party or any of the candidates and have that kind of common sense. I don't know how you do it. Which the fun thing about Bill Maher too, though, is like I appreciate him because he's somebody on the left that critiques them, but he still votes with them.
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
Like, you're saying this is insane, but you're going to vote for that.
Right.
Like,
because he belongs to a cult. He doesn't belong to a political party. He belongs to a cult. I'm gonna vote for this cult because that's who I am and that's what I am. You can't call them out as being dysfunctional and then walk away from them like Kennedy did in Gabbard.
Yeah. Well, that's what he should do. I mean, even if he doesn't become a Republican, which he doesn't have the values of the Republican Party, but he should leave that party or do something to cause it to reform or something. Because I think that's what I mean. America. The truth is, America needs like sane people to rise to leadership within the Democrat Party. One party rule is not good no matter what. So like, let's say we crush the Democrats in 2026, 2028. Great. Well, again, I don't care which party it is. One party rule is not good. It's actually healthy to have like other, another option that is actually sane. I mean, having one option is not as like, I mean, most people want more parties, not less. But yeah, so the Democrat Party needs to reform itself in order to have any hope of continuing to exist, in order for a country to have hope, really.
Well, that's what I think.
Yeah. So hopefully that happens. I think if we crush them in 2026 and 2028, I think you'll see that happen. So let's hope that happens and we can pull back some of these insane policies. So yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys for putting on the Common Sense Fair. This is what the fourth year in a row, right? It started in 2021, I think, right? And then continued on until now. So like I'm really excited. I'm really pumped. If you guys want to buy some Muddy Waters merch, we're gonna have some at the fair. I might also be selling some MAGA hats if anybody wants them. So we'll see. But yeah. So September 20th.
Yep.
10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yep.
At the fair. What is it? The Litchfield Fairgrounds. Be there, or I don't know. Just be there.
There you go. Should be there.
Yeah. Anything else that you guys want to share before we go?
No, thank you so much.
We're good for now. Thanks, Chuck.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Always good to see you. Look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Right on.